Good evening. Welcome to Left, Right and Centre. I'm Vishnu Shom. On the programme tonight, as political leaders across party lines slug it out with one another on Manipur in Parliament, we felt that the larger picture was being lost and that the larger picture has to do with the ground situation, not with political rants. There does appear to be no apparent solution to Manipur at the moment. There is continued hostility between the two communities. So on this program, we thought we'd speak to some excellent minds, people closely monitoring the situation in the state to try and see if there were any solutions visible in this crisis. What is the road to peace? And at 1:30, it's one of India's worst kept secrets, the disastrous statistics on lost children. Kids who leave, are sold, are kidnapped, are trafficked, sometimes even murdered. Consider this. In the last 5 years, a whopping 275,125 children went missing. 77% of them were girls. In the same time period, as many as 240,502 children were found. These are separate from the previous numbers. These are numbers released in Parliament by the government. On this show, we'll be joined by police officers and those involved in the successful rescue of children and experts who continue to work on this massive problem. But that's a special program coming up at 1:30. Our big focus at this stage is Manipur. And we thought we'd go away from the politics and try and look at practical solutions. That's what we're going to do today. Dr. Ranjana Kumari with me, B.L. Vora, former Director General of Police of Manipur with me, Major General A.K. Sewaj, who's commanded in Manipur, Suhas Chakma, Teresa Rehman and Hoinu Hozel. Thank you all very much for being with us. Hoinu is a senior journalist who's tracked the madness in Manipur from the very onset. Teresa, let me come to you first. Basic questions. Give me your suggestions. Number one, should civil society groups set up a truth commission in Manipur for starters?
Thank you, Vishnu, for this important debate on national television on Manipur. We definitely need peace talks with all kind of people, not just masculine peace talks. And we need peace talks in the church, in the temples, in places of worship, in educational institutions, in civil society organizations. We'll have to accept the reality if we have to look for solutions. We need inter-community conversations and a safe space to have these conversations, to develop respect for each other, compassion for each other, brotherhood and sisterhood among each other. And the state can only facilitate such conversations and keep strict vigil on the troublemakers. And, this is, I don't know if I'm asking for too much, but it's like when we go for out-of-court settlements. So here, I think we have to go beyond the state. Yes. And talk to people, because in my many years of reporting conflict from Manipur, hardcore conflict from Manipur, I have never seen this kind of hate among communities. I've always seen, and this is something very new to a state which has witnessed several decades of violent insurgency and low-intensity war. I have always seen an all-pervasive angst against the state, the authorities, the center, and the so-called mainland India. But, this is something very new. Okay. And this is really disturbing and distressing.
Hoinu Hozel, whenever we use the word civil society, there is this sense of possibly westernized, extremely highly educated, perhaps more based in Delhi or in our big cities. And so it's problematic sometimes to use the word civil society. But the question I'm asking is that if we move away from the government for a moment, is there an NGO or elements of society in Manipur which can actually work towards finding a peace solution right now, given the fact that the state and the center have made very limited progress?
Thank you, Vishnu, for this discussion. We not only have to accept the reality, but when it comes to peace talk, we also have to be very careful about the intent of what we're trying to bring in. So far, Vishnu, what I've seen we have initiated the importance of peace and reconciliation. But what is really ambiguous? What is peace? We haven't clearly spelled out the term peace. Does it mean just the silence of the gun? Does it mean the mere absence of disturbance? Because we need to be very, very careful. We need to be sincere in our effort to look for that, to quest for peace, which is long lasting. So we need to look within to see what are the mechanisms, what are the modalities in which we can bring about a lasting peace. Very sadly, it is very ambiguous right now. We don't know what it means. Peace. Do we mean that people who have been dislocated or driven out of their home, are we really expecting them to come back, rebuild, and forget that, 3rd May never existed? That would be so traumatic. So we need to really spell out. The terms are ambiguous. The terms are absent. They are not well defined. We only talk of peace, but what is it?
Sure.
What does it mean? To the government, it might mean the absence of, disturbance or just silencing it. But I honestly feel tonight I must express that I feel there is lack of sincerity. If we look at the history of any riots in India, it doesn't last for even a day. Even the most severe one, which is still in a mind space, the Gujarat riot, it just took 3 days. Now I want to understand, are we serious in trying to even douse this? Are we serious about it? It's
Okay,
over
I
3
take
months.
away 2 points from your answer. How serious are we, number one? And number two, how do you define peace? Is peace just the end of violence, or does peace imply a restoration of what used to be a way of life? And I agree, at this stage, no clear answers, and certainly no clear definition either. Hoinu, I'll come back to you later on. Suhas Chakma, my next question. Is President's rule and restoration of rule of law by possibly an impartial administrator the way forward?
I think that's the only way forward because of the communalization or polarization of the situation. I do not think we have Desmond Tutu or Gandhi who could, lead the process and have the confidence of both sides. The fact that Chief Minister himself is not acceptable basically means you cannot find anybody else. In fact, anybody from the community trying to speak rational thing is actually hounded out in Manipur at this point of time. So if we want to establish peace, I think what is essential at this point of time is to make sure that, sparks do not come out again, because small incident could lead to more violence. And what we have to realize today is the ethnic cleansing which have taken place from both sides. So what we are looking at is there are no Kukis in the Imphal Valley and there are no Meiteis in the hills. So in that kind of a situation, the government is not even in a position to ensure that its own officials could come and serve in the capital or could go and serve in the hills.
Okay.
So that's one really. But if we want to go forward, I think what the government of India immediately needs to come up with is how do you rehabilitate and resettle the people who are displaced? People who are in Manipur, Mizoram, or people who have fled to Kachar district or in Meghalaya. Because nobody is talking about rehabilitation and resettlement. And the program of the government of India meant basically giving some food security, giving some rations, giving some medicines, etc. That's all fine in the interim term. But, somebody who has lost everything, if he or she doesn't have the opportunity to be compensated, to be rehabilitated, the suffering shall continue for a long period of time, especially given the ethnic cleansing or the apartheid or the separation has taken place. So the first step for the government of India would be to create a situation where people could come back from the other states and ensure that you give adequate resources for rehabilitation and resettlement. Then people can possibly heal some of the things.
Okay.
But without the rehabilitation and resettlement, people would be thinking, I can't go back to the Imphal Valley, I cannot go back to the...
And I will deal with that rehabilitation question in just a moment. But General Sewach, is it possible for Kuki-Zo and Meitei communities to live together? And I mean, as Suhas was mentioning, there are hardly any Kuki-Zo left in the valleys, hardly any Meitei, if any, left in the hills. Therefore, should families be incentivized to return? Should there be cash incentives for them to go back, which helps them in rehabilitating in areas which used to be their homes?
Yeah, Vishnu, we must understand one thing. today both sides the society is surcharged, and the biggest problem as on today is that there are more than 4,000 to 5,000 weapons are still within the public, and these are falling in the hands of insurgent and anti-social element, both sides, whether it is Meiteis or Kukis. Until and unless you do not retrieve these weapons, the peace cannot prevail. And to retrieve these weapons, you have to have an army from aid to civil authority going to a counter-insurgency mode. And therefore, there is a requirement of unified command to work under military commander, and who will then directly work under the civil authority. The format is already there with us, what we did in Assam and what we did in J&K. So we must understand there are two problems. One is that the number of weapons which are being floating around, and voluntary, they have not come back more than only 1/4. And there are also weapons which have come from Myanmar. So the border is porous. So therefore, one is immediately have a unified command, seal the border between Myanmar and Manipur, which is about 500 kilometers. Third, do the combing operation, get these weapons back, earn the confidence of public by ensuring a strict action to be taken on those perpetrators who have taken law in their own hand and disrobed the women and then prayed them. Fourth thing is that the arteries which are coming to Manipur, especially to Imphal from Kohima, they are also blocked. Material, whether it is in logistic or supply is not coming, they must be opened up, and the relief must be given to the people who are violence has been affected.
I am told, sir, that some train services for goods might have been restored today, at least partly. But carry on with your answer.
Vishnu, very correct. I'm saying that the roadmap has to be like this. Until unless you do not disarm the society will remain charged up. And a small incident take place, availability of weapon make that incident into a big incident. And that's what's happening. And at the same time, the peace committee so far had not succeeded from either side, whether it is from Meiteis and Kukis, sit down together, work out a solution. Two communities which have stayed together, years together, today are enemy of each other. So therefore, there is a requirement of this peace committee to bring these two communities together to make a roadmap as to how do we proceed from hereafter. See, everyone is trying to bring out that it is a religious violence. It is not a religious violence. It's an ethnic violence between two communities.
Let me just keep
due to distrust and mistrust.
Got it. BL Vora, let me try and, the general, of course, talks about a question which I would have come to, the recovery of weapons. But I didn't really get an answer to the question I was looking at. And as a former Director General of Police, Mr. Vora, in Manipur, my question is this, I'll repeat it. Is it possible for Kukizo and Meitei communities to live together? Why? Because there are hardly any Kukizo in the valleys and hardly any Meitei left in the hills. Therefore, should families be incentivized to return?
It is definitely possible, Vishnu. Of course, it will mean a lot of effort. Incentivization is one thing, but of course, security would be another thing. But coming back to who should constitute this, who should go ahead with the peace efforts, I think a lot of people, there are many learned professors of both Kukis community and Meitei community in Manipur University itself. There are people from these communities among the doctors also. There are very renowned hospitals there who are there. There are bodies of churches, there are bodies of temples, who represent the people, and people listen to them. Then, of course, there's a political class. There are ministers belonging to both communities, and officers, and even some police officers also are there. So the point is, a lot of people, see, if we look for, and journalists, of course, the media personnel, some of the senior journalists which are on your show, I think if you look for sincerely, I have no doubt that we'll be able to find a lot of people. Now, coming to, if you give me a little more time, see, the point is, it's not only the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Yes, important, most important. But if you ask me, there are a lot of other steps which need to be taken. First is to stopping the violence. I think the straight away, even if brute force is required, it must be used. I think it's very, very important. Mm-hmm. Then, of course, getting weapons back. But then on the political class, the bureaucratic class, the police class, I think a host of decisions are needed. The whole thing should be overhauled totally. See, you will be surprised to know that or maybe you're knowing, there is division among officers in the administration
Yes.
and in the police.
In the police, yes.
Yeah. So things are so bad, and political class, as you know, is divided. Ultimately, let me tell you, my 40 years of experience in the police tells me that in this country, if the politicians want to improve a situation, they can do it. If they want to spoil a situation, they can do it. Ultimately, the buck stops at the political level.
Okay.
So I think some hard decisions will have to be taken by the government.
Sure.
Now,
hard decisions need to be taken. Mr. Vora, let me just quickly move on. One sec, sir. Let me just quickly move on to my other panelists who are waiting. If I can, I will try and come back to you. You've made lots of really important points. Dr. Ranjana Kumari, you've dealt for decades and decades with the issue of women's rights. But let me just bring in an issue which has been a factor on the ground. How does one stop large mobs in Manipur, for example? The Mira Paibis, who are women torchbearers, they are a very large grassroots group, have been at the forefront of blocking central forces. So what the General and what the Director General of Police were actually saying is that, look, we have to have law and order. And what we've seen on the ground is large groups blocking them, in many cases women's groups as well. How does one deal with a situation like that, ma'am?
Vishnu, two things. This problem is of the political nature, and also that this has been a dangerous area where any prick would have hurt. And now we have pricked them enough in terms of their own response, especially about women. You saw, everybody in the country has seen the videos that were released. And, given that kind of a situation, how do you really expect women to trust anybody, people, men, police, army? We have heard so many stories of how, they have complained. I don't know how much these stories have been verified about army's role in terms of what they did to women in that state. So I think this has already been troubled state, and all this, and peace is a process, Vishnu. It cannot be imposed by anybody. It cannot be by sending a group of outside people to go and start some kind of a negotiation and discussion. It has to come from within. So number one, it has to be dealt with politically. That means the people are expecting a kind of political response where they can come together and sit on the table and have some kind of a negotiation between the two warring groups. And secondly, also the women must be brought into, because women have been exploited, abused. They have been by each other's communities, by the state apparatus. And also, you saw the video, police was just watching what was happening. Could they really help women from getting the kind of treatment they got? This is unforgettable. It's the most torturous thing that in my own 40 years of life that I have seen, and couldn't do anything about it. We are sitting here and just feeling so helpless. So I feel that from within, peace process will have to start from both sides. One, from both the community leadership will have to be brought together. Some trust has to be developed between them and the state. Okay. I think that's also, there is a big trust deficit at the moment going on between the public administration and people and they're not trusting that there'll be some kind of a negotiation that can happen. And that is where the politics can play a very, very creative, constructive role. I think we all have to forget about our arrogance. We have to forget about, how you can control people through army and police. No, you cannot. You have to build the trust in the people. Okay. We have seen it for years and years.
Suhas, you had a point. I have about 6 minutes left. Let's make it quick. Suhas, and then I'll go back to my others.
No, I just wanted to, highlight one particular point, that in this conflict, women have not only been the victims, but they have also been the perpetrators. There were women groups who have actively participated in the violence, encouraged their children, to rape women from the other communities. So it's not an usual situation only where women are targeted. Women have been targeted, that's fair enough, but there are enough videos. And I think the way women sometimes even interfere with the enforcement of the law by the central security forces to block the arrest of people who were already armed, who had killed security forces earlier. So we have to keep in mind that it's not a generalized situation where only women are victims, but
Sure.
women have been equally perpetrators in this country.
They have never been consulted. They have never been brought on the table for any kind of discussion. Nobody
But
wants to
that's
listen.
not the issue.
What's
See, when the
going on.
riots started, there are a women's group. I don't want to mention which community. They have participated. They encouraged. There were videos telling their children to rape the women from the other community.
Okay, let's just quickly move on. Teresa, let me come to you. How does one deal with the fact that this time around the ethnic conflagration has a strong anti-Christian hue?
That's true. I mean, we can see that, but some people say that it's a ethnic conflict, but we can see that it also took a communal turn, and there are whatever Suhas has said, there are contradictions in ways in which women respond to and suffer in times of conflict. It's too complicated to, put it in one word, in one sentence that, and it's very, it's too complicated a situation to blame anyone. And I'm sure the politicians have been, reaping the rewards of such a conflict. Sure. But yes, so it's too complicated to blame anyone, especially the common people. And it's also I would like to tell you that it's sad that it takes a harrowing or an appalling video or a photograph from Manipur to puncture the indifference of the so-called national media and shake the nation's conscience. The state of Manipur is a war zone that stays out of the national consciousness until a compelling photograph makes the news impossible to ignore. Yeah. Way back in 2004, it was a nude protest by 12 women. Then it was a Tehelka series of photographs of a former militant being shot. And today we wake up to this horrific video of 2 women being stripped.
No, I agree with you. I think the national media has to be far more consistent.
So this is a typical pattern for the Manipur or for the matter.
Sure, Teresa, half a sec. Hoinu, let me come back to you. And this is my final question. Should groups such as the Arambai Tengol, the Meite Lipun and the Mera Paibe be controlled or regulated at various levels? They were, as I understand it, an active part of the violence.
Before I come to that, few things that I need to respond to my previous speakers. Yes, B.L. Voraji, you did mention about, the state having hospitals very well equipped. Let me just put into perspective. Yes, there are hospitals, very well equipped, state-of-the-art hospitals, but they remain in Imphal. Ranjana ma'am, you had mentioned about the need for political response. Yes, there is a need for political response and a political solution. And in your screen, you did show clippings of women in protest. Vishnu, the problem here is we look away. We know the solution, but we look away. Women have been protesting here in Delhi. Have we ever even paused to listen to the grouse? Have we ever paused to understand what is the problem? If they're compelled to express the desire, the need for a separate administration, did we even look into the mechanism of what will work? Yes. What are the reasons? We look away without even solving the problem. We have an answer. That's why we never address the problem. Therefore, the way the center is trying to deal with the problem must also change. We need to redefine how Northeast is looked into it. Let Manipur be the first, let us begin with Manipur. Let us not give them a solution before understanding the problem. Then nothing will be solved. And if, as another speaker before me stated, if there is a fear that the weapons might be used, then it is not peace. Because my understanding of peace is even if they have access to weapons, the fingers would not pull the trigger. That is lasting peace. If we fear that they might use it, then we have not done our work. Peace is not complete, then it's not a lasting peace.
Those weapons do need, Hoinu, and I'm only interrupting because I am out of time, but thank you so much for referring to those points. It's been really rewarding for me to listen to these views. It's sensible at a time when there is insanity in Manipur, but we need to find a way forward. This is our India, this is our Manipur. And it's time to have these conversations a lot more. We'll take a short break. There's more coming up. Welcome back. It's one of India's worst kept secrets, the disastrous statistics on lost children. Kids who leave, kids who are sold, are trafficked, kidnapped, in some cases even murdered. Consider this. In the last 5 years, a whopping 2,75,125 children went missing. 77% of them were girls. In the same time period, as many as 2,40,502 children were found. Now, these are numbers released in Parliament by the government. On this show, we'll be joined by police officers who've been involved in the successful rescue of children, and also experts who continue to tackle this huge problem in India. The numbers are just perplexing and they are deeply, deeply saddening indeed. Well, joining us now, H.S. Pulka, Senior Advocate, Delhi High Court. Thanks so very much for being with us. Ravi Kant, the country head, India of Access to Justice, a part of Kailash Satyarthi's Children's Foundation. Kailash Satyarthi has, of course, won a Nobel Prize for his work in helping children, particularly in this cause. Also joined in a little while by Kalanidhi Naithani. He is an IPS officer, the SSP in Aligarh, someone who has been involved in rescuing any number of infants. But let me come to you first, Mr. Dhaka. Is increased poverty in fact, let me come to you first, Mr. Pulka. Is increased poverty the overarching reason for children to go missing or become victims of trafficking?
You see, most of these children belong to the lower strata of the society. I mean, I have this, my fight for the missing children started in 2008. In 2008, the Delhi High Court had taken a suo motu notice of this, because the problem was much larger even before that. In 2003, 45,000 children had gone missing. Only 3,000 FIRs were registered in the country. Yeah. In 2010, BVA, they conducted a survey in the country. 1 lakh children had gone missing. Only 8,000 FIRs were registered.
Right.
But so in the Delhi High Court took a suo motu notice, and that BVA also was a party. The Justice AP Shah, Chief Justice, appointed me as a amicus curiae.
Right.
And that time BVA brought the parents of the children to me. Most of these children, 90% belong to a very poor strata of society.
No, so what is the reason for it? Is it overarching poverty?
The reason
that they're sold or they are trafficked?
No, you see various things. They are trafficked, they are used for child labor, they are used for the begging, they are used for girls are used for prostitution, and there are various things into which they have the children are sent. So this problem. So this the first time the Delhi High Court decided in 2009 in that matter, that in case of wherever a report of the missing child is reported, within 24 hours FIR should be registered. Before that, there was a circular by the Ministry of Home Affairs that after 15 days the FIR should be registered. So police took it for 15 days, they don't need to register FIR. So a child who is kidnapped now, in 15 days, child is already gone out of the jurisdiction of the police station.
Right.
And that. So after that, in Delhi, the FIR started, police started writing FIR. Then the BBA took this to the Supreme Court.
Yes.
In Supreme Court, Justice Kabir passed the order that FIR should be registered in each and every case. There was a lot of opposition from police. In many states came and opposed it. They say most of these cases are elopement cases. They come back and they filed the affidavit that a 12-year-old girl, a 13-year-old has gone missing, and they closed the case because it's elopement.
Okay, let me just go across to Mr. Ravi Kant. You know, one of the interesting stats which I came across in what has been submitted in Parliament is that if you actually look at the number of children who've been rescued, if you look at the states of West Bengal, right, of 35,000, of nearly 45,000 children, male and female, who have been, the number of children recovered is 45,634. And in the same time period, but obviously pertaining to other children, 49,129 have actually gone missing. So even though these numbers aren't the same children who've gone missing, there would perhaps be other children. The point is that a large number of children in 2 states I noticed, West Bengal and Madhya Pradesh, appear to be returning. How is that the case?
So let me first mention that one child missing is too many.
Yes.
And it's a very serious thing. Having said so, I would certainly like to talk about, some of the great initiatives undertaken by the government of India and various state governments across the country. Since this 2013 landmark judgment, Bachpan Bachao Andolan versus Union of India, a lot has changed. And as Mr. Fulka was saying, that it was 1 lakh was reported in 2010. After that, 1,60,000 children were reported missing in 2014. And then the numbers have, dipped. Why I am saying is that the government has done a lot of work. They have instituted policy changes by bringing in the registration of FIR. They have undertaken work on institutional framework of creating anti-human trafficking units and missing children desks across the country. We have created convergence mechanism due to this, and we have an SOP with Bachpan Bachao Andolan, and there we are seeing that Railway Police Force is doing a great work, in terms of rescuing and preventing work. We have instituted knowledge mechanisms in which advisories of the Ministry of Home Affairs have gone to across the states. We are ensuring enforcement by bringing in, Operation Muskaan
all this is great, but but do answer my question.
Yes,
Why
I'm answering your question.
Yeah.
Answering your question.
Please.
We have, the government and the state governments have done extremely well in terms of, rescuing these children. And therefore, in certain states, these states have been traditionally, a hotbed of trafficking. And let me go, because as people who work on the ground, we have to see the great work which has been done by the state governments, either it is Madhya Pradesh or it is West Bengal. A lot of children are today now being rescued. In fact, in the last 3 months, let me tell you that we have rescued 6,000 children on behalf of the Kailash Satyarthi Children Foundation and Bachpan Bachao Andolan. We have rescued 6,000 children from
those
across
numbers
the country.
are absolutely striking, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Mr. Pulka, has the situation worsened because of no schooling and a lack of continuity during COVID? Were children particularly vulnerable at that period?
You see, this situation has improved since last 20 years.
Yeah.
Now, in 2000, after the Supreme Court judgment of Justice Kabir, after that the case started reporting. Earlier the police didn't even used to record the FIR.
Right.
Then the figure came, over 1 lakh children used to go missing every year. And almost 33% of them, almost 35,000 were not traced every year. So that was such a sorry state of affairs. Today, it is the figure which you have given, it comes to the 55,000 children goes missing every year now. Children who goes missing number has come much lower, and the children who are recovered are also close to about 49,000 almost. So about 10% remain not recovered. And I would say that most of this the government had started acting under the stick of the Supreme Court. I mean, I have the order of Justice Kabir. I was the lawyer in that case. He summoned the Chief Secretary and DGP.
My question is rather specific. You've brought in the legal aspect. I understand that a lot is being done. What I was trying to ask you is, did this situation worsen during the COVID period? Did a lot of children who would perhaps have access to more resources find themselves in a situation of great vulnerability, which is why in the last 5 years we have had these numbers?
You see, as far as during the COVID period is concerned, that data is separate data is not available as of now. So it would not be proper for me to say that it has increased. But definitely the children were more vulnerable. Because of that reason, the trafficking has increased. Right. You see, there's a difference in it. Every case of trafficking is not a case of missing child. Missing child is which has gone without the knowledge of the parents. Trafficking is even the parents have given the child for the child labor or for other purposes. So trafficking has substantially increased. The missing children may not have, but that is, and now you see one of the reasons that the recovery of the children has increased is the facial recognition software.
Yes.
The facial recognition software, first Justice Sanjeev Khanna ordered in Delhi High Court. I was a lawyer in that case also, and it took us long time. Now the facial recognition software is in place. Now what was happening earlier, from that, by using that, it was found that could pick up the child of 3 years, he has gone missing, and today the child is of 17 years, 16 years. It can match the figure and tell it. A child goes missing at the age of 3 years from Delhi. The child is recovered from Lucknow. He is sitting in the children home in Lucknow. He don't know his address of his parents. He don't remember it. Such child is there. So facial recognition software has helped a lot in this. Because
and how widely spread is facial recognition software? You need those cameras installed in what, railway stations?
No, there are different ways. One is, first of all, what we did, because the BBA was helping the government in this. First of all, what was done, that by facial recognition software, the children who have gone missing and the children who are in the children homes throughout the country, large number of children were recovered from that only.
I see.
Children has gone missing from one and another. Then it is also at the railway station, that also at the various places. Then that was also tried.
Let me come back to you, Ravikant. The next question I have, during the COVID period, did the mandatory use of face masks often make it difficult to identify traffickers and kidnappers?
Yes, I think during COVID period, children did become vulnerable, and traffickers were using different ways and means to traffic, and we had undertaken several rescue operations at that time also across the country. At that time, when trains were not running, there were several, these people were, taking away these children and even girls to different places through roads, and several interventions were happened in which these children were rescued. So what I have been trying to say is that over the last many years, the response mechanism to missing children has been strengthened. We have seen the situation in 2003, and since then the situation has increased, and nowadays, and even these 35,000 children will be traced out because of this institutional thing of getting FIRs registered, because investigations are happening, and the cops will finally find them out. So of course things have improved, but a lot needs to be done.
But if I may add one thing, you see, the sensitization of police force was absolutely necessary. Delhi High Court directed that all the SHOs and the ACPs, there should be workshop held. So I had gone along with the Delhi State Legal Services Authority's head. We held the workshop of the police officers, and after that many SHOs came to me, say sir, we had never taken the cases of missing children so seriously. So sensitization of police was absolutely necessary, and now in most of the states this has been done, like you are saying. Earlier, maximum children had gone missing from West Bengal and Maharashtra. Now the recovery over there, you have seen, it is primarily because of the system is in place. The SOP has been made, various central government has made, then various state government has also made SOPs, how the police should be acting in this case, then police is sensitized. So therefore, no doubt, 10% children which are missing even till today, that is also quite a large number, but the way the recovery of the children who are traced has gone substantially high. From 35.
No, that certainly gives a lot of hope. But Ravikant, let me ask you this, as somebody who's sort of committed your life to this project of saving the lives of children, reuniting them with their families, could you, besides all of the data, could you share a little bit more about why this matters to you, why it is that you decided to do this?
So I think that the law enforcement has been since 2013 has been registering these FIRs across the country, and that has given us numbers. Also, I would like to state that several operations have taken place, like Operation Smile, Operation Muskan, everywhere, and these have led to recovery of children across the country.
No, but what about you, sir? I'm asking about you personally. You are involved in a mission to save the lives of countless children. how did you decide to get into this? I mean, both of you, one speaking as a lawyer and the other person could well be a statistician.
He's on the
What
field.
what you are doing is profoundly changing the lives of countless people. So my question is a personal one to
I
you.
think-
What does this mission mean to you personally?
Seeing
What does it
children-
feel like
see-
when you reunite a child with a parent?
Seeing young girls being sold in brothels, seeing young children, being forced to labor, and several rescue operations and several rounds of, work at the police stations, at nights during rescue operations. All these things have shaped us, to bring into this cause. Also, the work of our mentor, Kailash Satyarthi ji, the vast work he has done in terms of child labor, bonded labor, recovery of missing children, that has also inspired us, to take up this work.
Mr.
I tell you
Pulka,
one instance.
yeah, please go ahead.
One instance. This Ravi Kant, his team traced a girl who had gone missing from West Bengal. She was a very bright child. She was just, I think, 6th or 7th class. A very bright child. She was sold 3 times after that. And Ravi Kant, his team, and the Kailash Satyarthi's team, they followed the links right from West Bengal. They came to Delhi. From Delhi, it was told that she has been sold to Lucknow. They followed her to Lucknow. From Lucknow, they found out that she has been sold in Guwahati. They followed in Guwahati. Ultimately, they recovered that girl. She was returned to the parents, and that girl is, I believe, doing very well. That's what I was doing her case in the Supreme Court also. Means looking at so much of effort Ravi Kant and his team is making to recover these children. 3 times that girl was sold.
Ravi Kantji, there must have been occasions when you came very close to rescuing a child, but it didn't work out.
Yes, there has been several.
Could you give us some instances?
Yeah, there have been several cases where we have, tried to trace. There was a young girl who was trafficked from West Bengal, and was sold several times, and we were tracing this girl because we did have some leads, and we had some numbers. We had given it to the law enforcement, but the law enforcement did not do it. But one fine day, that girl was suddenly found in a Delhi hospital, with lot of infection and sexually transmitted disease and traumatized. And last 4-5 months we had spent to search this child, but we did not get her. But finally, when she landed up there, a cop informed us that she's from Bengal. They informed us that please come and talk to this girl. And there, to our surprise, we found out that this girl was the missing girl we were finding. We were trying to find.
Wow.
So that was, something which had really touched us. And in that we have recently got a conviction in that case.
Yeah, that's well. Look, thank you both very much for sharing this. I'm joined now by Kalanidhi Naithani. He's an IPS officer, SSP in Aligarh. Thanks very much for being with us. You've been involved, sir, in a lot of projects to help detect not just children but also adults who go missing. You've had a lot of success over there. Can you give us some examples of some cases that you were able to crack?
In 2021, in this district alone, we recovered 7 infants who had been stolen from various districts, and a few from this district also. So a good thing about UP is that there is a circular by police headquarters that if a child is missing for 24 hours, you have to register FIR in IPC 363. So it's not that we have only a GD report that a child is missing. We also appoint an investigating officer for it. So here few labors, we observed that a child has missed, and then we tried everything best to get hold of that gang. Then we found that they were associated with a few hospital people, like private hospitals and their subordinate staff and their aides. So what they were trying was that people who are childless, instead of going for the correct adoption rules, they were trying to buy infants, keeping these people as middle person. So then we recovered around 7 children, 7 infants, all under 1 years of age. And that gang was booked, and we imposed Gangster Act also on them. And we ensured even after they are put under surveillance, and we have got their history sheets open, and they are in jail. Many of them are in jail. So such are the types of criminals. And it depends. As I said, in another case, once there was a child missing for 4 years. He was kidnapped, and we came to know that a rickshawala had kidnapped him, and he's in another district. We put our team for 7 days in that district looking for every rickshawala. And one day we found that child on that rickshaw only. He was taking him for a ride. And that child, after 4 years, he was kidnapped at 2.5 years, and that was recovered in 6.5 years, in 4 years. And the person, then we had to send that person to jail, and the child was thinking that his father is being jailed. So there is a big psychological trauma also involved. So we have specialized agencies like child welfare committees and NGOs associated, so that even when we recover a child, that trauma is minimized when we hand it over to a family, which the child thinks now that is a new family, and which it takes time for him to consider that to his own family.
In fact, I wanted to go back to Ravikant for a comment on that. Mr. Ravikant, this is an important issue, isn't it? That there are instances when there is a recovery which actually does take place, and yet the child doesn't know anybody other than the kidnapper. Have you faced cases like this?
Yes. Many a times, because these young children are missing at a very early age. So there are situations where this happen. But I would also like to bring your attention to, what has happened in these last many years is that earlier police used to pass off, many of these young girls who would go missing as consenting cases, as cases of children, of young girls who have eloped for marriage. And this very recovery of these young girls from different locations in trafficking situation has changed the whole discourse. There are nothing called elopement, and there is nothing called, consenting relationship. It is all about trafficking. Many cases, hundreds and hundreds of cases, and we have the evidences of that.
One final question to you, Mr. Naithani. You work on so many horrific crimes. Could you just tell us a little bit about the satisfaction, sir, that you get in returning parents or children to their parents?
The highest job satisfaction which a cop gets in his life is when he hands over an infant to his mother after he had gone missing. The mother, the whole atmosphere and the feelings which we can observe that time, we can feel that time, it is complete job satisfaction. And then we feel like, this is what our job is worth.
I can only imagine. Thank you so much, sir, for speaking to us. And Ravikant and Mr. Phulka, both of you are heroes, just saving lives. Thank you so much. And we'll always here in NDTV support you on this mission. We'll take a short break. There's more coming up.